ladies, gentlemen, and those dirty, tricksy fae. That's going to cover the subject of miniatures and battle maps. Now, I know I'm a little bit late getting on the bandwagon of this one. This has been discussed around by the community, but I've got some things to say about it, and so I'm going to. Some of you talk about getting miniatures out and using them in your roleplay games, or using battle maps, you know, the sort of thing with 1 square inch grids on, or maybe even not. Or maybe using some scenery that would be used in other war games like, you know, Games Workshop style ones, Warhammer, all the vast other type of ones you can use. You can get masses of scenery for that and other systems. Maybe using that and saying, right, I'm going to get the tape measure out and inches per whatever, or, oh, hey, these 2 yards, is this 1 inch? So every 1 inch you go is 2 yards for your character's yards movement, or a lot of you might kind of like keep partial track of it on paper and say, well, I know approximately that it will take 1 move for you to get here, you know, so we know I'm in that quadrant. Or some of you might just use a completely RP thing only. But I know that there's a number of you that are against miniatures and battle boards. You don't like the battle boards because you think it sort of confines you down. You don't like being told what the thing looks like. I guess you like to picture it in your head or whatever. And you don't like the miniatures because that isn't your character. Your character isn't that miniature in your head, is it? It's something else. Here's my stand on it, okay? The people that think that the miniatures and the board games are wrong, they're correct. The people that think that the miniatures and board games are right, they are correct. It's a perspective thing, and that's completely 100% all it is. It's about your gaming heritage, your background, where you come from as a player, as a person, as a personality, what matters to you, where your form of escapism nucleus originates from. Mine comes from tabletop wargaming, okay? I spent a lot of years imagining that my little armies of orcs going across a field in games of Warhammer Fantasy, on a little measuring tape and all the little scenery, I spent years imagining that all of that was real, watching them little things move, even though they're plastic and I'm pushing trays of them along. I'm seeing them march, okay? I'm seeing the scenery, the little buildings that I've used countless times before as towns, buildings and that sort of things, but there's a fresh town I've never been to, even though it's the same scenery. I'm able to form that kind of escapism, and that's how I grew up as a player. You know, you've got limited scenery and you make the most of it. And all of the guys I play with also have that gaming heritage and background, so it completely makes sense for us to enjoy miniatures, and I stare at the miniature that I've painted and prepped for the roleplay experience, and while I'm looking at what that looks like, I really know in my head truly I'm able to make that separation, imprint upon that miniature what my character looks like, and I can appreciate that some of you can't do it. But to join in the debate on this, I'm telling you that I and my group, we absolutely say that miniatures and tabletops, battle maps are thoroughly essential. We love games where there is cover. We love games where there is positions. We like to know that we can move from this bit of cover and get to here, and what is it, a half move or a whole move that gets us here, and what can we do tactically in between, and you know, is there a place where we're going to be forced to go to ground, and where is the next piece of cover, especially in these futuristic shooting type games like Dark Heresy, where cover is absolutely paramount. Try playing a game of Dark Heresy without actually being a role play, just getting some miniatures in and using the combat rules inside the core book. You could actually run it as an all-miniatures, skirmish, standalone game without it being anything to do with RP. How big is the cover? At what point? How many men can actually get behind that cover, really? Should the GM have to make that up, or could you just say, well, it's, you know, it's the scenery? And it's great if it's that scenery, especially if you've actually managed to collect some of the scenery for the thing. And I suppose that also comes into it too, the kind of world you're using. Remember, if you're playing one of the Warhammer-based roleplay games, being Warhammer Fantasy Battles, 2nd or 3rd edition, or if you're really hardcore first, or Dark Heresy, Rogue Trader, Death Watch, Black Crusade, all of that goodness from Fantasy Flight, where it's Warhammer 40k based, then of course, that's from the Games Workshop IP, which is massively supported by loads of scenery specifically tailored to that IP. All of the skull motifs and all of the ships and all those things that you will be encountering in the roleplay, there are actually models for. It almost seems an injustice to the heritage, the origin of the point of the game, to actually not implement miniatures in doing so. You don't have to necessarily use the tiles and the expensive things and the packs, the things that come with the grids on, or you can maybe print them out yourself, but you can go a different route as well, and I'm going to show you what it is. This, laddies and genitals, is a whiteboard. Draw a quick outline of something in. It's much more memorable in where you use the miniatures and the battle maps, as in what happened in the combats. I can not only remember in those games what happened from the player characters, but I can remember what all the NPCs did as well in the battle, and everyone else can remember what everyone else did. Now, how many battles through the entire campaign can you say that you can honestly have a specific visual record of exactly where everyone was standing apart from each other and really what everyone did? Memory is very much connected to as being a very much a visual thing too. So it's those visual cues that you get to connect into your synapses and bury them in and twist them and tie them in a little knot and go like that, and then it's there and you've got it and you've managed to capture what happened tactically in those battles. And thanks for tuning in, guys. I'll see you at the next video and see you at the table.